We're going to be talking about leadership and leadership skills, but we thought that what we would do is introduce the Executive Leadership in Academic Medicine program that the four of us have participated in different years. And we'll open it up for question and answers and just tell you a little bit about what we liked about the program and what other things we're doing on campus and what we'd hope to do for leadership skills for women. The ELAM program was developed at Drexel University. It is an intensive one-year fellowship program where they provide us with executive education, some personal leadership assessments and coaching, and for many of us, the best part, the networking and mentoring activities that go on. It was developed to help develop a broader vision of the women's role in academic medical centers, specifically as leaders, and help us with our leadership effectiveness and understanding of strategic finance. And then as a participant, you become an active resource network for women and really for everybody across the country. Here's the kind of leadership roles that our graduates have across the country. 17 of the graduates are now in dean positions, and you can see it's mixed between U.S. medical schools, dental schools, and public health schools, with 3 deans of graduate schools having participated. There's a lot of departmental chairs, about almost all of them are at medical schools, with 8 at dental schools and 5 at public health schools. Center directorship is another leadership role that the alums have taken part in, as well as the various administrative roles as associate, senior associate, or vice deans at medical schools. And then you can see some have gone on to chief executive positions or academic officers, including presidents, provosts, vice provosts, and vice presidents. So it's a pretty impressive group. Here are our participants. As you'll see, there's 11 of us listed. 10 of us came as MCW representatives. Paula Termulin recently joined us from Wright State University, where she actually was sent via that university. So, and many of us are still here. Dr. Freischlag obviously was our current dean candidate until yesterday. Yeah. So why do we think ELAM is important? It's really a unique learning opportunity for current and emerging female faculty leaders. And it lets us at the Medical College of Wisconsin really build on the skills and strengths of people who are here. It is an opportunity that we haven't found elsewhere. There are some AAMC programs for junior and senior faculty, which are excellent, but they're focused on the totality of academic medicine, not just on leadership, which is ELAM is pretty focused on leadership. And when we come back, we're hoping that that group of women will serve as some resources to you as other people in the community, as well as to our leadership as a whole across the Medical College of Wisconsin. So our goal in presenting that very briefly is to interest you in considering being part of the ELAM program, let you talk with us to learn more, and then once you've done that, if you're interested and you fulfill the criteria, please let your chair know of the desire to participate in the program. The reason for that is up to 2 candidates per year can be nominated from each institution, but they really only select 1. The applicants have to be associate or full professors, and you have to submit a letter of intent to the Office of Faculty Affairs, and then there will be a review process. We'll probably talk about that a little bit, about what's going to happen for the subsequent ELAM participants. Just so you know, the expenses for the program are split between the Office of Faculty Affairs and the participants department. So there is a cost to this.
It was an intensive, self-reflective process that allowed me and the other participants to get a very good idea about my own personality, my own leadership skills, and unfortunately a good hard look in the mirror about shortcomings, challenges, things that I needed to develop. The program itself is designed for people who are already in some type of leadership position, who are fairly far along in their academic career. It's not designed for beginners or people who aspire to take a leadership path. The course itself lasted for the full year, and there were 3 two-week sessions that were, 2 were in Philadelphia, 1 was in Boston, linked to the AAMC meeting. The self-reflection and self-evaluation also allows you to help others by learning how to take feedback and how to give feedback, because it was a bit humbling, I guess, a lot of the feedback that you get about yourself from your peers at the course. There were 52 women in my class. There were physicians, there were PhD researchers, there were dentists, there was 1 engineer. Schools of medicine, public health, dentistry, and engineering were represented. I learned a lot about different leadership styles and how to reflect about myself and what would be the best sort of fit for me. There were career counseling sessions with professional leadership coaches that reviewed we had to take a, what was the personality inventory?
Myers-Briggs.
The Myers-Briggs personality inventory, and that was analyzed and reviewed with us in a group and individual basis. And then we learned how to network within our own institution and network with each other. And part of the year was meeting with leaders on campus and learning about what they do and their leadership skills. So I think one of my favorite things was learning different types of leadership styles and how they might apply to different situations.
It's a pretty intensive program, and there's a lot of different subject matter, and being a little bit attention deficit, I found that interesting. So each day you would have probably 1 to 2, sometimes even 3 hours on different subjects. I looked through my notes actually this morning, and I have a folder that has several articles, which we're hoping we can get to Jackie to post on our website if there's not a copyright issue. I don't know how we do it, but you would get kind of an article that was supposed to be your homework and read about it, but we covered many different things, from fundraising to like skills and persuasion was one of the things I was reading over this morning. That was really an interesting thing, the 5 steps of persuasion, which I think most of us know instinctively, but there might be one area where we really don't utilize, and kind of going over that was really interesting. Interview skills, crucial conversations. As Pat mentioned, there was a 360, which is where you have your bosses, your peers, and those that work under you provide feedback, and then that feedback was kind of interpreted with an executive coach, and that was hugely helpful. What else? Negotiating skills. And then I guess one of the things that I found the most interesting is taking all these leadership skills, and they did put a little bit of a bend to how women might be different. And I think that was really important for me. One of the things that they talked a lot about is how women are different in the way that they provide vision and the way that they communicate vision. And that sometimes can be perceived as not having vision, because you don't come out there and say, this is where we're going and this is what we want to do. But we might say something like, well, I've got an idea, and did anybody maybe perhaps think about this? So I think kind of learning the leadership skills, learning different ways to negotiate, and then kind of learning a little bit about how women differ, which in some ways is better and in some ways is not, and just kind of like taking your first step to understanding what the differences are were interesting. And I also thought it was really interesting learning that, trying to decipher how I might actually interact with other women leaders. So sometimes women are harder on women, and this actually explained a little bit about why that might be. Very intensive, a lot of different things, some that maybe didn't apply as much, but some that really did apply.
I loved all those things about the program. When I went, it was really early. I think I was the third class that went through. And after we did that, they added a specific project. So one of the things you would be asked to do is to identify what you're going to bring back to the institution. And that was in part from our class, who really felt strongly that if we could apply the skills we were working on, it would be a little bit better. So they've added that since then. The other piece was just the networking. I still communicate with about a third of the women who were in my group. And if I went on the reunions that they keep having, I'd probably communicate with more, but they're always at really bad times. So it's just a really good group of people. It helps you, as both of them mentioned, it helps you look at your strengths and weaknesses, but probably more importantly, it lets you know that it doesn't make any difference what your strengths and weaknesses are. You can be a good leader. You need to learn to build on your strengths and have solutions for any weaknesses. You're not going to change who you are and how you do things a lot. So how can you use those skills? And I think that that was something that came from that program that was really beneficial.
It is, I think, really directed at kind of senior leadership positions. So, but there are a lot of other programs, particularly given by the AAMC for women that actually have some of the same speakers. So I think your point of, you don't want to wait too long is a really good one. And I think that's also part of why we're doing this today, is to bring some of this knowledge back so that you can get to that spot to apply. I was really, I have 3 kids, and they were, I don't remember because I was gone. So they were like, 12, 11, and 10. So it was a lot of time, and that was probably the most difficult thing for me. I missed a birthday, and I was really mad that whole day. But retrospectively, it was a great experience. So it is something I think that I was concerned about before I went, and during it, even at times. But it was such a worthwhile experience, and the way the program has kind of all this stuff that you learn, and then they really promote networking. So you get put into these small groups of maybe 8 women, and it's just a very bizarre experience, kind of like, I was likened it to, being an intern. You're really good friends with those interns, and we just really bond. And if you're not there for that amount of time, I don't think that would happen. So I think there's a little bit of science about why it's that much time. And so I don't know when would be the right time exactly. I don't know, Pat, if you have any comment.
I do. This was a struggle for me as well. My daughter was 8, I think, when we were thinking about this. And I guess I have to back up a step. Just because you think you want to do it doesn't mean you're going to do it. You have to be recommended by your department head to Dr. Walker. The applications are reviewed at the College of Medicine level, and up to 2 can be sent to ELOM, and then they're all reviewed, and you may or may not be accepted. So step 1, it's a competitive process. Step 2, it is a huge time commitment. It's a financial commitment from the institution that's backing you, that if you really get recommended by the institution, they believe in you and they're willing to put their pocketbook behind you. I was lucky that I have a very supportive spouse, and I thought it was very selfish of me to want to go away for 6 weeks, plus spend all the time you have to spend at home doing the personality inventories and the questionnaires and the preparing reading. And it was put in a better frame for me that it was worth it. It was something that if I was recommended to do and I wanted to do it, that there were ways to make it happen. You have plenty of time to prepare in advance. I think the acceptance letters come out in the early spring or something like that, and the materials are sent to you in the summer to start working on, and then the first session is in the fall. So you have 6 months to cancel your clinics or change meetings or whatever it is you have to do, get
Make
somebody
the
else.
Halloween costume. It's always during Halloween.
Right.
Done before.
Part of your, my husband made the Halloween costume while I was doing part of your application process is certifying, promising that you will spend the time to do it, and having a letter of support from your department head that your time will be freed up to do this and that. And so it is tough with time, but you have time to work it out, and it's really, really worth it. Everybody that I was there with had something at home that they weren't doing, that they felt bad about. And during the breaks, everybody's on the phone checking in at home and that sort of thing. But it is such a personal growth experience. And the same will happen with anything you go away for, short-term or long-term.
So I applied twice. I did not get accepted. I got nominated by the school but not accepted the first time that I applied, and then I applied a second time and got accepted. So they look through and they see where they think you are in your career and whether or not that would help, you're ready to be helped. It's halfway to an MBA. So, and in fact, I told my husband, I said, oh, look, it'd just be another 6 months and I could have a master's in business administration. He was like, really? Like, what a great idea. Like, you should have 2 master's degrees, Mary. That would really, really help us. So I didn't finish my MBA, but it is half of an MBA, so there's a lot of coursework in it.
Every class is a little bit different, but it is predominantly academic faculty members from medical schools, although it's about 2/3 that and about 1/3 dental. It sounds like they're adding more with the public health and engineering schools. And then we just heard somebody else was thinking about, they were inviting somebody else. But it's all women who are in leadership positions in kind of similar academic settings. Our group was very mixed, clinical and basic science. And that was a really nice thing to see. It wasn't just, because you couldn't all get on the same, let's complain about reimbursement, because that wasn't the issue for everybody. So it was really a nice mix of perspectives and a nice mix of people. As far as what you need to be in a leadership position that the school wants to support. So that's why you really need to talk with your chairs. You need to have his or her support to keep moving as a leader in the institution.
Yeah, I think our institution has not probably had a fair representation from the PhDs, which is part of why we're sitting here to get the word out, because it's really been more, for whatever reason, just more MDs that have gone here. So we'd like to expand that, and Karen had given a presentation to the chairs of all of the departments, not just clinical, so that everybody knows about it, because I don't think it's been that known. But I don't think it matters at all what your background is. Probably the more diverse class, the better they function.
I think you approach your job differently. I mean, I think you used to look at people and go, what is wrong with them? Like, they cannot understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. And the problem with them is that you need to send them, like my ex-chairman, Dr. Adams, I figured out that he communicated, you had short bullet points in an email. And even if you came to the meeting, short bullet points in front of him to look at, because he was not listening to me talking. So I kind of figured that out through ELAM, and you're, all of a sudden, instead of being confrontational, it was more like, how can I, clearly we're not communicating. Like, how do I get this communication open and be able to manage what I need to get done? I mean, when I was the chief of surgery at the VA, I had 59 part-time surgeons who reported to me, like, that is like herding cats. And so, I guess I developed a strategy of talking them to death. You just keep telling them, like, this is why I want you to do this. This is how this is going to help you, and this will keep you out of jail. So, I mean, I think it changed the way I did my job.
I think the thing I brought back was how to provide feedback, how to communicate. I think it's all going to come back to communication in terms of what I've brought back differently. How we did a lot of exercises identifying the people who reported to us and who were causing problems and who weren't, and why the people that weren't causing problems, and why the ones that were causing problems, and how to try to tease out the very multi-layered aspects of people who you deem difficult for one reason or another, and how to have civil communications with people, how to try to reach the middle, how to help arbitrate to other people who are having difficulty, how to really be honest about constructive feedback for people who aren't hitting the mark, and how to do that in a kind and supportive way, and how to be organized about what your goals for those people are, how to request and accept feedback for yourself so that you can improve.
I think there's a couple concrete things. So as one of the projects, you have to go and interview senior leadership position at your people that hold senior leadership positions at your institution. And you can pick whoever you want to go talk to. So I picked the CEO of Children's Hospital, who I had a lot of exposure to. The president of the medical school, who normally doesn't meet with faculty. It got you in the door so that they recognize your name. So that's a very concrete, very intentional thing that the program does. And you have to kind of fill out your interview form, but it's really to be able to get you in the door. And it's during this process, you ask them questions about themselves, and it's a totally different interaction with people that you would never have an opportunity to have. So it gets your name out there. That's a concrete example. For me, and Karen touched on this, I think dissecting out some of the psychology of leadership and conflict management was really, really useful, because I always thought there was like one way to do it, and I wasn't the right way. And so to learn that in different situations, like, the best thing I learned was that it was okay to avoid conflict, so that's a style of conflict management. So sometimes you want to compromise, sometimes you want to compete, if it's somebody that you have to compete against, and other times you just may want to avoid. So kind of learning a wide range of skills to deal with situations depending on the situation, and the same with leadership styles. I'm not sure that I would have pursued more of a future in administration until I dissected out how I lead, and that may be different than somebody else, but still really can contribute to the institution.
They spend a lot of time, as Mary mentioned, it's partway to an MBA. So we did a lot of financial analysis. And for anybody who's in any position where they have to manage a budget, it was really helpful. It's not just adding up the numbers and figuring out, if you lose this grant or this contract, what's the long-term implications, is something that nobody here has ever talked to me about. I interviewed Deb Campbell, who was CFO at the time, way back then. It was one of the most fascinating insights into what the fiscal functioning of this institution was, without giving me any real details. So that was extremely helpful. And then I agree with everybody else. A lot of it has to do with how you interact with people, developing some strategies to overcome barriers, recognizing that one strategy isn't enough. And so it's been very helpful in a lot of different ways. It's also made me more open to additional coaching, and because it doesn't make any difference who you are, you need help becoming a better leader.
I just want to say myself personally, and probably the other ELUMs here, we're here to help whoever thinks we might be able to help them. And so by having information on the website about who's been to this program, if you're stuck on something and you want to talk it through with somebody, and either you have to make a decision about something or not, or how to deal with something, or how to navigate something, any of us would be happy to meet with anybody on a one-on-one sort of peer mentoring basis to try to help solve your problems or big or small, or just provide some companionship through difficult times. I think that's one thing that, as a group, we feel we can give back to the institution is just some informal mentoring structure for, especially for women, not exclusively, but, and we're happy to serve in that role.
If you have your application submitted and you don't get selected by the dean or you don't get selected by ELAM, there's a group of us here who can help you look at your CV, look at your accomplishments, and plan for the next step. And I think that that's one of the things we're hoping that the ELAMs can give back to the institution, is just to really be available to help where possible, just as Pat mentioned, or around the actual application if that's what you wish.
And when I don't know if there's, Jackie, evaluations, but I think one of the things is we do have a lot of good information. So if there's specific topics that folks, Libby's always looking for more topics from the Women's Faculty Council as well to sponsor. You know, we seem to sometimes get stuck on the same things and might be overlooking really important things. So we would appreciate input if there's specific things that folks want to hear about, or articles, or
just to get together.
Yeah.